Paperback Rocker, episode 90. Hey, this is Matt Severson, the Paperback Rocker, and I'm broadcasting from my 6x9 foot cinder block shack in the desert of northern Mexico, southern Texas. Welcome and thanks for checking out my show.
Check out Band on the Run. It is not for the easily offended.
We got to let that boy boogie, and I felt so good.
Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to episode 90 of my Paperback Rocker podcast. My name is Matt Severson, and I go by the nom de plume of the Paperback Rocker on the internet. I write books and I make music. I have a new song recently released called Gun in My Hand. Some people are listening to it on Spotify around the world, but a lot of people, people are listening mainly to my cover of We Will Rock You, done under the name Saturn Lander, as all my recording is done. And particularly in Brazil, We Will Rock You, the fast version of Saturn Lander, is popular, and places like Portugal and Turkey. But Brazil seems to be on the cusp of going quasi-viral, if, getting played 2 or 3 times a day in a country is on the cusp of going viral, which it really could be. Because it's kind of weird that just all these people in Brazil are finding that. So maybe they're talking to each other on Facebook about it. Who knows? So watch for that. Put my music in your Spotify playlist. That's what you got to do to help get some kind of traction with music on Spotify. And while you're at that, put my friends in there too, the No Chance Band. Put them on your Spotify playlist. Okay, we are going to start reading once again with bad accents galore, chapter 16 in this beautiful hardback novel of mine, Blue Whiskey. We're on page 192. And here we go. In order to keep this book under 800 pages, I'm going to give you some exposition, which I am told is the worst thing I could ever do as a writer. I've been around long enough to know that every rule of writing is like every rule of music. They practically beg to be broken. And yes, I also know I wasn't supposed to use an adverb in that previous sentence. We cleaned up the thirsty possum, and I listed it with a number of real estate brokers who were drooling for a Bourbon Street-sized commission. The possum did not open for business after the listing was made and was not available for tours. Our intention, although quite possibly misguided, was to create an aura of mystery. We didn't want any potential buyers to see the less than impressive clientele or get wind of the son of Faulkner tragedy. Pictures of the interior and the apartment were made available, but the only physical inspection offered was a walk around the building and a peek in the front windows. This was all done by design. We set up only one official viewing of the property, and it was on the Sunday night before Mardi Gras. That was by design too. New Orleans locals do their Mardi Gras partying well in advance of the tourists. The locals I'm talking about are the bartenders, bouncers, cooks, dishwashers, waiters, cops, strippers, prostitutes, and musicians. They know they'll be working their butts off Mardi Gras week and sleeping by day. What I just described may be so much exposition now, but I truly believe Reuben and I were the first to purposefully harness all that pent-up potential energy before Mardi Gras. It didn't take much to spread the word up and down Bourbon and all around the French Quarter that Stanton was back at the Possum from Greenwich Village for one night only. The real enticement was that schooners of beer could be had for a nickel, and there wasn't even a cover charge. Bookies talk about a sure bet. If ever there was one, it was a sure bet the Thirsty Possum would have its busiest night ever. Coincidentally, on the night that potential buyers were invited to check the old barn out. In the days leading up to the event, the buzz threatened to create a shortage of nickels in the quarter, so we sent out word that a $5 bill would buy all you can drink. And Bourbon Street let out a collective sigh of relief. A $5 would have bought 100 schooners, so it was a wash for the Possum. The night of the event was something I'll always remember. But as far as I know, it's never been written of. I have not mentioned it in the multitude of interviews I've given over the years. It never came up, even though it is legend in the history of Bourbon Street. By 7 that evening, the Possum was packed and buzzing with anxious anticipation. I was going on at 8. Reuben and I had hauled the stage back in from behind the building and repaired the warped boards, and it was at full strength. We borrowed a state-of-the-art PA, as well as a Fender Rhodes electric piano and a 3-piece drum kit, which was a kick drum, a snare, and a hi-hat. 2 old friends of mine were going to accompany me on some blues after my acoustic set. I waited, I waited upstairs, nervous as hell. No, I hadn't taken any black beauties, thank you. I had the jitters worse than when I played in London. The reason was because I wanted more than anything to help Reuben sell the Possum so we could go back to New York together. Stanton, it's time, came Reuben's voice from the bottom of the stairs. Come up here for a second, I called back. I was sitting on the bed tuning my guitar for the 22nd time. Reuben hurried up the stairs and said, "What's up?" "Just getting in tune," I said. "Whose guitar is that? What happened to the one I gave you?" I didn't want Reuben to know it had been destroyed, so I lied to him. Dylan liked it so much, he asked to trade it for this one. "I'm sorry, Rube. I didn't feel like I could refuse him. He's pretty pushy." "That's awesome," said Reuben. "Can I see it?" I handed the guitar over to him, and Reuben held it with reverence while he examined it. "You can play it if you want," I said. "No way. This guitar doesn't need to be played by an amateur." "Hell, Baez has played it," I said. I was still sore at her for some reason. "Joan Baez?" "Yeah, she's always skulking along behind Bob. She gets on my last nerve." Reuben smiled. "You're nervous. There's no need for you to be." "How full is the place?" "Packed to the gills, but there's no pressure. Easy for you to say. If you weren't nervous, it would mean you didn't care. You'll be fine." "I'm going to blow the roof off this place like a hurricane," I said. Reuben looked at me with a shocked but happy expression, but said nothing. He put his hand on my shoulder and we walked to the stairs. I followed him down. As we opened the door, the place erupted. Tales of my exploits in Greenwich Village had preceded me. People with familiar faces rushed forward like fish emerging from dark water to gulp pieces of bread. "Welcome back, Stanton," said a girl after planting a wet kiss on my cheek, and she was gone, replaced by the next person. "Break a leg, boy," said a young fellow I did not recognize. He clapped me on the back. "Remember me?" asked an older lady. "I work at the morgue." Reuben and I looked at each other. He mouthed, "Faulkner?" Before I was derailed completely, Reuben turned his back to the throng and used his body as a shield to usher me the rest of the way to the stage, which wasn't far, but the place was packed asses to elbows. Up on the stage, I surveyed the audience from above, and it was a sea of people. I had a mic stand this time. I said, Y'all sure look pretty from up here. Thanks for coming to see your old friend. Sound came at me like a wall. The crowd was like the ocean, and their applause was like breaking surf. It was exhilarating. I played the first song, and at the end of it there was silence. I opened my eyes to make sure the audience was still there, and when I did, they went crazy. People were jumping up and down and screaming. I tried not to show it, but I knew something right then. I was famous, at least in New Orleans. It's true that most entertainers are more popular where they come from. It's like a football team with home field advantage. It's why Johnny Cash played for the criminals in Folsom Prison. I know I shouldn't take a cheap shot at Johnny, him being dead and all, but he deserves it for getting me mixed up in that forest fire he started that killed all those condors. As I said, right there on that stage after my first song, I knew what it was to be famous. I looked over at my former master behind the bar. He stood watching in awe, just like everyone else. Nobody needed a fresh schooner at that moment, even if they were only a nickel. This is nice, I said. Hardly eloquent, but the applause my comment garnered would have made you think I just wrapped up the Gettysburg Address. When the noise hushed, I began playing in that style I had learned in New York. I strummed softly and almost mindlessly, which was a perfect bed to talk over. So I went out to New York, to Greenwich Village, I said, and everyone laughed. The smiles were warm, and I could see a common humanity in their eyes. It strengthened me. Before I continue, I want to thank you for coming tonight. It means the world to me. I strummed harder and stepped away from the microphone to stroll to the left and right sides of the little stage. I locked eyes with many people mouthing, "Thank you," and "Good to see you." I don't know how I knew to do it, but when I mouthed those words to those people, I did it in an exaggerated way. In the theater, it's called projecting. I wasn't putting anything on like an act. I was just performing. Back at the mic, I said, "You may have heard of a guy called Dylan." The crowd roared. Rube's estimation of Dylan's popularity was way off. "Matt Dillon on Gunsmoke. I love that show," I said, and everyone laughed like I was Johnny Carson. I strummed for a moment until it died down. "There's another guy named Dylan who you might have heard of. He prefers a 6-string to a 6-shooter. I never rehearsed my ad-libs. I instinctively knew I had to have a conversation with the audience, and it couldn't be manufactured in advance. I went over to London and opened some shows for Bobby Dylan. I didn't come within 10 feet of him the whole weekend. I played some more. His manager gave me one order. Whatever I did, I could not play a Bob Dylan song. I strummed for a good 30 seconds before saying, "They knew I'd do a better job than him. Here's one he's been playing around the village." I launched into a Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. My fans were spellbound. I sang the first verse in imitation of Dylan's gravelly howl, then sang the rest of the song in my most melodic tenor, escalating to falsetto when the urge hit me. Once again, I ended the song with my eyes shut, having been deep in the tunnel. When I opened them, I thought the roof was going to blow off. It really was like a hurricane. It wasn't so much applause as it was a release of raw emotion. Dylan's song had united us, while at the same time putting all the frustration of the times under a magnifying glass for us all to see, or more accurately, for us all to feel. The response to Dylan's song made me feel like a lesser artist than him, but I felt superior as a performer. Now it makes perfect sense, since Dylan's biggest hits have always been other artists' interpretations of his songs. I seeked into Eternal Flame, saying, "This is my song," during the opening chords. I kept my eyes open this time, which was rather difficult. I had played the song thousands of times, enough to put on a bit of added performance. I detected a natural need to throw a curveball, so I played the song with direct honesty, seeking out every person with my eyes, from the front row to the back. I wanted everyone there to think I was performing just for them. By the end of it, the whole place was ready to sign up for active duty. Okay, I'm going to call it right there. That's page 196 at the next, right there at the last paragraph, basically. Page 196 in this hardback edition of Blue Whiskey. Thanks for being with me. I hope you're enjoying the story. I'll be back soon with yet another volume. That was volume 34. We'll be doing 35 and in the coming days. And probably maybe about 12 or 15 more, and we will be done with this novel. So you can look forward to that maybe. Thanks for being with me again. As always, I'll talk to you soon. Have a great week, my friends. See you again soon.
The Paperback Rocker has signed off.